now we're going to delve into OTC derivatives and CCPs, and of course there's that deadline looming, December 2012. That was the deadline that the G20 in Pittsburgh a few years ago gave for all OTC derivatives to be cleared through those CCPs. Well, joining us now to discuss this are a lot of people, let me tell you. James Lowry is closest to me. He is a Senior Vice President, Global Lead for Deriv One State Street. Also with us, William Philonook. He's a Managing Director of Research and Development Asset Servicing at BNY Mellon. Paul Swan is also with us. He is the President and Managing Director of ICE Clear Europe. Dr. Craig Perrong is next to him. He's the Professor of Finance, Bauer College of Business, University of Houston, and Takeshi Hirano is the Director of Strategic Planning at OTC Derivatives Clearing Service, Japan Securities Clearing Corporation. My goodness, who comes up with those titles for you guys? They are very, very big mouthfuls. Let's start with you. I'd like to start with you, Craig, if I can, talking about what are the main challenges presented by this move. Is that deadline still going to stand, December 2012?
Well, I think it's going to be tight and probably unlikely to stand, but the main challenge is, I mean, there are a huge number of challenges. One is getting liquidity, one is getting customers, buy-side customers up and ready to go, and getting the clearing arrangements in place, and identifying what instruments have to be cleared. I mean, there's a huge backlog of things that have to be done. You guys are practitioners in this space. What do you make of what he had to say?
I agree with Craig that, in fact, Bill and I were just talking about this before we came on, that buy-side readiness is not where it needs to be. Few of our clients at State Street have chosen to move ahead of regulation. And so we've got a lot that are waiting until the very end when the mandates take effect. And I think the industry is going to see a rush that could overwhelm everyone in terms of our capacity to absorb the questions and the legal work and everything else needed to get clients up and running.
Mm-hmm. This is a really good time to make sure that the industry and the buy side of the industry in particular really understand what their requirements are going to be. So as an example, many of the buy side clients hire third-party fund managers to manage for them, and perhaps maybe under the misconception that clearing futures and the parties that clear futures are the same as the brokers that buy and sell their equities and their bonds, and they're very different relationships. In the futures space, the cleared space, your relationship is as long as that contract is. So if you have a 30-year contract, you have a 30-year relationship, unlike in the equities and bond space, where when you hit the settlement day, your relationship with the broker is finished.
I'd have to agree with what my colleagues have just been saying, but from a provider of clearing services perspective, I think we've got to be really careful about any rush to getting complex OTC products into clearing. We need to really focus on making sure that the risk management models have been developed and that we know how to manage those products within the cleared environment as they're brought in. And false deadlines really don't help with that. I think we need to sit down and work through that properly, make sure that the systems and processes are developed properly and the clearing houses are actually fixed in a way that they can manage the risk that they're going to be managing in the future.
Takeshi?
I think in Japan, we are ready for the dealer-to-dealer clearing right now, and actually today is the first day of the mandatory clearing requirement is in effect in Japan from today. So we are ready for dealer-to-dealer, but as for the client side, we need some more education for the client, and we need to articulate the very complicated things like customer protection, customer asset protection. So we need to be very careful, not hurry, not for hurrying for the deadline. I mean, step-by-step approach might be very appropriate.
What specific support do you think anyone in this community can give to you, and what do you specifically need from them?
Well, for us right now, we're working very closely across our business with the clearing houses. We're working closely with our buy-side clients, with other custodians, and with some of the market utilities as well, because that's, from a readiness standpoint, the community that we need to be partnering with to make sure that our clients ultimately are ready for the changes. Certainly there are some things we're doing on the growth side as well, particularly in clearing, where we have a different form of readiness work we're doing. So we're really managing across that kind of growth and operational readiness balance.
On top of what JR was just mentioning, and so let's make a plug for SWIFT here. I just met with the SWIFT team yesterday that are developing the messaging around collateral around derivatives and so forth. So really from the point of view of the basic market infrastructure that ties the pieces together, it's really necessary to make sure there's a focus on that as well. And as well as our clients, making sure that they understand and are ready.
I think the main thing from a clearinghouse perspective is actually how we go about valuing the contracts that are brought into clearing. And the fundamentals of clearing is actually not really liquidity, but how do we reassess the value of a contract on a day-to-day basis, and working with our clients and the broker-dealer community around how do we make sure what the daily mark-to-market should be on these products is essential.
Craig, you can offer an outside-in perspective here.
Well, I think it's sort of ironic. You hear about all the pieces, the moving pieces that are involved here, and all the interconnections that are involved in various parts of the financial system. The whole premise behind selling clearing as the solution to the financial crisis is it was going to reduce the interconnectivity of the system, and it just basically led to a creation of a new set of interconnections and a new set of challenges.
Well, this area of clearing is totally new in the Asia Pacific region, I would say. So the first thing we need to pay attention is that we need to familiarize people. Familiarize people with clearing system and how the value of it, and also we need to make sure that the risk management at the clearinghouse is properly managed, because the liquidity in the OTC derivatives market in Asia Pacific is relatively low compared to the European market.
I'd like to pick up on a comment that Craig's just made and around interconnectivity in the system. There's been a lot of debate around whether clearinghouses should interconnect in order to provide offsets across different markets. And having spent the last couple of years trying to remove interconnectivity from the system, we think we need to think very carefully about before we reintroduce it into the central counterparty world.
Do you want to come back on that?
Well, all I would say is from the end user point of view, the investor point of view, having that ability to offset does have a financial impact on them. If they're unable to have the offsets, they end up having to post more collateral. In some cases, those end investors don't have that collateral to post, so we'll have to acquire it at a cost. I mean, that creates a nice business for the market participants that are transforming ineligible assets into collateral assets. But still, if there are other ways of optimizing those transactions, offsetting the risks of those transactions, that does produce a lower cost for the end investor in the market.
Yeah, I agree with Bill. It would be nice to have. I don't think we're going to see it based on past experience. No. The way the futures industry works today, where there really isn't that kind of connectivity that you're talking about. As we've been telling our clients effectively, don't count on this. Think about it in the way that you set up your clearing relationships and the way that you're working with your clearing houses, so that you can maximize the netting opportunities that will be there within one clearinghouse.
I don't know if any of you happened to hear that session, and Manmohan Singh from the IMF was here chatting to me earlier this week and talking about the fact that CCPs, well, a lot of people actually, not just him, but they were saying that CCPs is not the only answer to de-risking the system, and actually we may get into a situation where we just make a few too many, too big to fail. So what is your view on that?
It's certainly not the only option. I think it's the path we're headed down. We have to make it work. And that means that we've got to make sure that the clearinghouses are run properly, that they're regulated properly, that they're governed properly by their members, and that we operate that as safely in that model as we can.
I'm familiar with the IMF's work in that area. They actually are quite focused and quite knowledgeable. There actually have been, over the past 30 years, 4 clearinghouses that have failed. And one would hope that from that experience, from the research that's been done in the academic realm as well as the practitioner's realm, that the understanding of the risks, the understanding of margining, the understanding of how to avoid the concentrations that are inevitable when you start to introduce cost into the market, that we've learned from all of those experiences, and that we do end up having a better functioning market that has more participants in it, and most importantly has much more resiliency.
Perversely, as the operator of a central counterparty, I fundamentally disagree with the concept that central counterparties are the right answer to all problems and all ills of the world. Well, I'd love to believe that, of course, it's a great business opportunity. But I actually think it's incredibly important that the market recognises that there will be OTC products in the future. Yep. They should exist. Not all products are suitable to be brought into clearing. And in many ways, I actually think this whole concept of OTC clearing is fundamentally flawed. Once a product's ready to be cleared, it isn't OTC. By definition, it has to be largely standardized. So clearly we want to bring as much as we can into clearinghouses safely, but we also need to have an environment which nurtures OTC products and allows them to continue.
Hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. I've been talking about this for at least 4 years, since basically the financial crisis, and it looked like that regulators and politicians were going to seize on CCPs as the answer. 25 years ago, almost exactly, I witnessed the near failure of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and Chicago Board of Trade clearinghouses up close and personal. Not something that I want to see repeated again, and it does illustrate a kind of a risk that has been overlooked, and I think we really have to focus on going forward.
Well, just having a CCP could not be a perfect solution, unfortunately. And I think it is true that the risk is concentrated on the CCP, but with CCP or without CCP, risk exists. Mm-hmm. And if we can, as an operator of the CCP, if CCP can manage the risk properly, I think that's better than having nothing. And actually, regulators are already aware of that and paying attention to the regulation on CCP. So they have been working on FMI, for example, FMI principle, CPS by CPSS IOSCO, or in Europe, maybe this is Paul's game, but in Europe, they have been setting up a technical standard for the CCP. So everybody is aware of that, and we are working on it.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. Thanks, gentlemen, so much for joining us.